ultimately, that's where you're going to see your true worth. And I did that with Detroit. And it paid out handsomely for me at the end of the day because guess what? I broke history. So if I'm Micah, I'm putting the feet to the fire and I'm playing and I'm balling out this year. And now, Jerry, guess what? You could have got that hometown discount, but that's off the table, boss. No Free Lunch is presented by T. Rowe Price. The information provided on this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered financial or legal advice. Always consult with a qualified financial and or legal professionals before making any legal or financial decisions or investments. Welcome back to another episode of No Free Lunch. I'm joined by my guy, Jabari Young, senior writer at Forbes, covering business of sports at Forbes. Jabari, welcome back to the show, my boss. How are you?
And Ndamukong, it's always a pleasure to see you, my brother. I hope your July is wrapping up good. Your August is bringing in very well, man. It's your time of the year again with football coming.
It is that time of year, man. And I am officially retired, so I don't have to deal with these dog days of July, end of July and August. But talking about the NFL and the season and preseason starting in full swing, let alone the seasons are right around the corner in September, how do you see everything coming together with all these negotiations that have happened in the offseason? A lot of guys are getting paid, but there's a lot of guys that are having to hold out to try and get paid. And they're doing some interesting things where previously guys wouldn't show up to camp at all versus guys are showing up to camp and they're holding out within camp from that perspective. So let's talk about these holdouts.
Yeah. You know, man, I had a chance to really, Ndamukong, dive into just the nature of NFL contracts when Deshaun Watson signed that $230 million fully guaranteed deal a few years ago. And you learn all of the intricacies of what it takes, who has the leverage, who doesn't have the leverage, where is the risk factor coming in? Because as you know, it's impossible to pay over 2,000 guys fully guaranteed deals. NFL will go bankrupt. So I had a chance to dive in, understand why guys hold out at certain times, why they don't, again, the risk that comes with it. But on this particular occasion, man, this is why I'm very happy to be doing this show, because I want to turn it on you, right? Because I understand different techniques of why guys do it, but you've been here before, right? You are a player. I understand from the league perspective and why general managers don't do it, covering that particular thing when I first got at Forbes. But as a player, right? As a player, looking at strategically why you guys do it in the preseason, what are the reasons for it? When is it time to say, okay, enough, let me get to camp, because there are fines involved. Please give me your perspective, because now we're in the preseason. You still see guys like Micah Parson holding out. TJ Watt obviously got his deal with the Steelers, but you still see those holdouts coming. I think they're going to come to an end. But give me your perspective. Why as a player do you do this in the preseason, and what's the technique there?
I mean, it's super interesting, and I'm happy to be on the hot seat with this one. But I only experienced this once, and I've been able to, if I'm not mistaken, sign a total of 5 different deals from that perspective. And the one time I had to hold out was my rookie contract, dealing with Tom Lawan at the Detroit Lions at the time, as he was president and overseeing a lot of those different aspects of a larger contracts alongside the owners giving approval. And really, I spoke about this a handful of weeks ago. I wanted to be well compensated for being not only a top draft pick, but wanting to see myself as being a cornerstone of that organization, and seeing Matthew Stafford and saying, hey, you just had him as a previous number 1 pick and top 1, top 2. Like, I want to be paid more than him. And so holding out from that standpoint was for me to be able to say, hey, you got to value my talent. You saw my body of work. You've done all the research. You put all the PIs to look at my family and myself at Nebraska and Portland and all these different places. And I would like to be compensated before I step on that football field to have security for me and my family from that perspective. So I think it's due time and there's strategic ways of doing it. And when you feel like sometimes that's your only leverage of really letting them know, hey, you guys feel this pressure in what it looks like with me not on that football field. And do you like how that looks for you to go win a game, to let it go and to go win a championship?
Yeah. Yeah. And you kind of said it, right? You obviously want to make sure that your future is secure. And this is where, you got to really get tough with these contracts. But again, you always seem to have these holdouts coming around in preseason, right? And
Mhm.
I think is that for me, if I'm understanding it correctly, is that the only time to use the leverage that you have? Because, listen, teams are in there, coaches are getting their systems installed. They want their players there. Is that the only time where a player, I remember one year there was a player, I think he was a receiver. He held out for the entire year before he got traded to the Cowboys. I forget his name, was coming up short. I almost feel like it's Dante Stallworth. Maybe not. Maybe it was Rocket Ishmael. But someone held out the entire year. Very, very rare that you see that. But during the preseason, what is the strategy there?
I think the preseason it's a part of time, and again, I was very young at this point in time when I had to hold out with Detroit Lions. So or later on in my career, when I actually knew the ins and outs of the contracts and actually read them and understood kind of those tug points and the values of figuring it out and learning from my agents at early on in my career and then doing it on my own. Ultimately, I think when you do it in camp, it gives and applies enough pressure for them to say, all right, this is not what I'm envisioning. It's kind of messing us up leading into the season.
Yeah.
And really, the funny thing is, you've implemented 90% of your foundation from a team perspective, offensively and defensively during OTAs, mandatory mini camp, and through those summer months. So that's why a lot of people say, hey, I want my team, especially during mandatory mini camp, to come in, learn the offense, learn the defense, and then we can roll into camp and we can start doing strategic things, game planning, especially after the first 2 weeks for week 1 and week 2, knowing who we're going to end up playing because the schedules have already been out. So I think now it's getting real. And that's why in season, which is really preseason, people are like, I'm going to hold out until I get what I want. And that's the leverage that I'm ultimately going to have. And they're not able to see what I can do and how I can be a positive effect on the team, especially if I've been at OTAs and mandatory minicamp.
Has it ever crossed your mind to listen, I will hold out an entire year if I have to? Or is there an endpoint that all guys got to say, okay, listen, we're here now, right? If you go over this line, fines are going to start coming. The checks are not rolling in because you're not showing up. Like, where is that end game where you say, okay, I got to report even though I didn't get what I want?
Yeah, so it's interesting you asked that question. So I would say when I was the first time I was ever cut, and the only time I was ever cut, which was from the Miami Dolphins, in that organization, I was leaving the Miami Dolphins and I ended up landing in Los Angeles. And what I was realizing was that I was being undervalued, in my opinion. And I was like, I got the LA Rams, I got the Saints. At the time was also the Oakland Raiders. That deal fell apart. And I was like, man, these are my top 3 teams that I'm looking to go to. Like, I'm not feeling really what the numbers are out. Granted, they got to a level of where I was happy with, and then obviously understanding that I was still getting paid from Miami because that coach at the time who had the power to make the decision was a complete idiot and cut me from that organization for his
You're not
own
gonna say his name?
reasons. I try and leave those people out of my mind.
Yeah.
I kind of black them out from that standpoint. So you can figure it out if you know who's the head
I
coach
think
of
I
the
know who it
Miami
is.
Dolphins in 2017. So ultimately, I thought about, to answer your question, man, I might just take a full year off. I was sitting there talking to my performance director, man, I'm going to take the full year off. I'm going to grind, heal up, do all these different things, and be a specimen and come back in the next season. He was like, man, we can definitely do that. I have the game plan if you really want to go down that path. But things ended up getting to a place with the Kroenke family, which was an amazing family to work with and become a part of that organization. And you saw what happened. We got to a Super Bowl and came up short pretty much by a couple plays.
Yeah. Yeah. So now, right, remove yourself from Ndamukong Suh's body.
Okay.
Take yourself way out of Ndamukong Suh's body, right?
Yeah.
You get a chance to be Micah Parsons, right? You're
Okay.
now in Oxnard, California, right, where the Cowboys training camp. What
Oh,
is
and it's
your
terrible down
mindset?
there. It's
I
terrible
know.
down there. We did some camps down there. It's not fun.
No. But you're sitting there. What is your mindset if you're him, man? I mean, this is one of the more, all-star players. And personally, I'm a Cowboys fan, right?
Yep.
I hate it when you went to the Eagles, man, because I despise them when they were in the NFC East. I'm like, what is he doing? As a
Well,
Cowboys fan, I put myself to the side though, and I'm asking, like, how does a player, a generational talent like a Micah Parsons handled this situation, because this dude is a baller. For me, he's better than TJ Watt. I don't care what anybody says. He
Wow.
is the best defender in the NFL. No disrespect to Patrick Surtain. I'm telling you. But what do you do if you're him? Like, do you continue to hold out? Do you have that mindset? I'll sit out the whole season. What do you do if you're Micah Parsons?
Well, I don't know the whole situation down there. And I think one of the reasons why I was never able to get to Jerry's world and play for the Cowboys was because he didn't want to butt heads with me, and I didn't want to butt heads with him from a contract perspective. And ultimately, I don't know the dynamics that sit there, but I understand it from this standpoint. Jerry and his organization, they like to grow their guys up through the draft. And as they're doing that, they want to pay for them or pay them handsomely. But it's on his terms, and it's going to be on his timeline. Micah Parsons is still under contract, and he's not a free agent. So why do I have to pay you at this particular point in time? I may be worrying about other parts of the organization that I want to get settled in. And yes, your contract may be due. And if you do, in my opinion, see somebody as a cornerstone of your organization, especially for a long period of time, and that's 2+ years, because I mean, there's a short career, let alone in the NFL, be able to do that. But you don't let that guy get to the final year and not compensate them at the end of the day. And for me, that is something that I think Jerry should trend towards, making sure he takes care of his top guys and show that we care about you guys. We're looking for the best. And for Micah, I mean, you show up, you do your job, and you're still under contract, but you let it be known professionally, I feel like I should be paid, and I should be paid handsomely in a timely manner. And if you don't value me enough, well, guess what? I'm going to go to free agency. And that's how I handled it when I was with Detroit, because Detroit was like, we're not going to pay you. We're going to let you get to free agency. And you look what happened. You lost me. And the funny thing is, they even had the opportunity to match my Miami deal, which I would have lost money on from a tax perspective, and they still didn't want to match it. So at the end of the day, it's ultimately the owner's decision and the GM's decision for them to make that value opinion of that player to say, hey, I see him as a cornerstone, or I don't, and we want to move on. And usually when some people make those terrible decisions of not paying the guys, especially that they grew up through the draft, it usually sets their organization back a good amount of time before they get back to the promised land.
Yeah. When you're thinking about it, right? And again, Parsons is a unique situation because Jerry's world is a whole unique situation. But would you sit out the entire year if you're him? Again, you risk injury. NFL football is 100% sport. You're going to get injured in this sport. Like, there's no denying that. Do you sit out, or do you say, I am not showing up? Because if he does not get this money, he steps on the field and something happens, now your value goes down.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting. I'm always a person to bet on myself. So to answer your question directly, I don't hold out. If I'm still under contract and I'm still, it's not like I don't know the intricate details of his contract. If I'm still being paid somewhat a decent amount of money, and I mean, in relative terms, decent amount of money compared to everybody else in the league at your position, I play through that deal and I put the feet to their fire when it comes to free agency, because ultimately that's where you're going to see your true worth. And I did that with Detroit, and it paid out handsomely for me at the end of the day, because guess what? I broke history. So if I'm Micah, I'm putting the feet to the fire and I'm playing and I'm balling out this year. And now, Jerry, guess what? You could have got that hometown discount, but that's off the table, boss. You're paying me more than what the next guy is that is the highest paid defensive player, and a 10% on top of that.
Yeah. What is the strategy of accepting and dealing with the fining? Because obviously the Cowboys have some leverage too. They can start to tap into his pockets to force him to get back in, thinking that that's going to end the holdout. How do you handle the strategy of fining, when to say, okay, I'm done with the fining? Like, what's that perspective from a player?
Yeah, I think the perspective, if I'm in Micah's shoes, is I'm showing up to camp because I don't want to get fined. And those fines are set numbers based on missed days and things of that nature. But also, after you get over a certain point, they can become conduct detrimental, where that leads to massive issues that are not positive for the player and positive for the team. So him being in camp and one still being under contract, that allows that to not be an issue. But you can say, hey, man, I'm at camp, but I don't feel good today. So I'm not going to play. I'm not going to practice. I'm going to show up in meetings. I'm going to do everything, but I just don't feel good. My toe hurts. I'm not going to be on the football field, or my back hurts. So like, that's where it goes. And so I think that is a more strategic way of looking at saying, hey, I'm going to be here. I'm going to be present. I'm going to not create issues, but I'm going to let it be known I'm not participating in these different things until I feel well compensated and I'm put in a position of seen as value. And so that is, I think, the new way of holding out versus somebody saying, I'm not showing up at all, which you have a Trey Hendricks who's done that with the Bengals.
Yeah.
But recently he just showed back up. So I think there's a combination of looking at it both ways. And then my last piece on that with the Trey Hendricks side of things, of him not showing up and being fined, the team has a decision whether to fine you or not. So they can be like, all right, we're going to fine you, but now we've come to an agreement. We're not going to fine you. We're going to let that wash away and move forward, let bygones be bygones.
So it's a psychology game at the end of the day, because you say players will say, oh, my toe hurt, my back hurt, and they may be a little fib, right? So they can just not get fussed. But it's a psychology game that, players, it seems, have learned to play on teams by having camp hold-ins.
But I don't think it'd be a fit, man. Whenever I played this game and not been having something that bothers me, you learn to play the game to being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
If I'm not being paid, I'm not going to be uncomfortable. I'm going to be comfortable. So the money makes me comfortable to be out there uncomfortable. So yes, but it is a psychology and emotional side of things, and them and you. In other words, and granted, I have not gone through that since my rookie season. Hey, at the end of the day, I have some sort of power in these decisions.
When you're looking at the contract structurally as a whole, Ndamukong, is there anything that people don't talk enough about in these negotiations? Because the only thing that we hear is player holds out. Players not coming to camp. And then at the bottom of ESPN scroll, you see such and such has agreed to the largest deal for an NFL defensive tackle or the largest deal for a safety. It's like an ultra large deal. But is there something that goes on in those negotiations that people just don't talk enough about that impacts you guys?
Yeah, there's a lot of different things that we could probably talk about, and I don't know if there's enough time, but some things that I think are important for players when they're looking at their contracts and they may not understand. I think as you're looking at your contract and how you want to do things, big things for me was that my P5 which was paragraph 5, which is your salary throughout the 17, 18 weeks of the season, I wanted that to be the bare minimum. And the reason being is I wanted large bonuses. I wanted that cash to come in at signing bonus, roster bonuses, and all these different aspects. And that's just part of framing the contract to have, again, more leverage in the future, depending on how you structure that out as well. And then also, I would say, understanding cash over cap. There's so many of these different pieces that I learned, again, reading through these contracts, understanding them, sitting with my agent through my first couple of deals and wanting to understand the intricate pieces of the deal that I'm going to be signing. And then that's what allowed me, again, like I said, to be able to do this on my own and save that 2-3% from an agent fee perspective.
Examine the world of franchise tags for me, man. It's like a cat and mouse game with these things, right? Obviously, they're good for the team. In some cases for the players, because it puts them up in that upper echelon of salary. But explain the franchise tags, the pros and the cons for people who may not know.
Yeah, the franchise tag is like a limited lease. You
I
look
love
at
that,
it from
a limited lease.
You look at it from this perspective. I'm going to pay you, if I remember correctly, via the new CBA, because I've been through multiple CBAs. It is as simple as this. Top 5, average of the top 5 in your position. You aggregate that and you are getting paid that in 1 year, and the team controls your rights. The following year after that, you are a free agent. And so that's what kind of Micah Parsons is in. It's a little bit different because they picked up his 5th-year option as a rookie. So as a rookie, there's already a built-in franchise number based on your where you were drafted and all those different pieces come together. And the team has the right to pick up your 5th-year option. So that is what he's playing on. That's why he's upset, because he's like, I played through my 4-year contract. And yes, you picked up my 5th-year option, which I appreciate because that gave me guarantee for the 5th year. But typically you pay that player prior to that 5th year, and you just kind of roll it into their new deal on an extension basis. And so the franchise tag is like, hey, we like what you've done, but we don't really love what you did. So we're going to franchise you and say, show us again that you can do it and that you're continue to be consistent for a 5th year, or for a franchise tag, a year 5, a year 6, because they can franchise you twice, if I'm not mistaken, before they actually have to either part ways or give you a proper contract from a long-term perspective. But they could also just sign you to a 1-year deal. So it's a give and take, and it's more advantageous for the team. But part of that, they're giving you a short lease, but at a very exorbitant price, especially because, hey, highest paid defensive player, they're in that top 5 aggregate for them figuring out that number.
Yeah. Are you a franchise tag guy? Like, if you were a general manager for a team, do you utilize that? Because it sounds like almost players look at it as being.
I mean, yes and no. I think on special cases, and maybe like I would look at somebody who was just fresh off an injury and like they tore their ACL, they tore their Achilles, and I really, really enjoyed what they did for me for the last 4 or 5 years. All right, I'm gonna franchise you because I want to see how you bounce back, but I'm gonna have that conversation with you. I'm gonna say, hey, through your agent or directly to you, I'm gonna franchise you because I really enjoy you as a player. I think you're an amazing, you have amazing intangibles from a emotional, intelligence standpoint, but also what you've been able to do for me on the football field. Well, now, guess what? We had this incident that's unfortunate. I'm going to franchise you because I want to preserve my rights of what I want to do in the future. And we're going to agree to move forward in that manner. And I do want to have this long-term deal, but I want to reserve the right based on this injury that I may not move, because if you don't bounce back, then I got to make a tough decision. As much as I like you, I got to do what's best for the team and this organization for us to go find ways to win football games and go win a championship.
Yeah. Now, people, listen, the NFL operates on that hard cap, though, right? So there's only a certain amount that they can go past when it comes down to spending. Some guys are going to get paid more than others. We do know this. And, quarterbacks are obviously the guys on the team. But you're looking at it now in 2025. Any notes that you're picking up that you say, okay, look out for this next year? Because every year, there's going to be a group of guys that hold out. I'm anticipating that NIL money and the fact that these kids are getting paid a lot earlier is only going to, and they're going to exacerbate the holdouts, because now I can pay you a fine. I've been getting paid millions since the college. I can write that check. Hey, go to fine. We're going to do a long-term deal that's going to be beneficial to me, right? Anything that you're picking up in 2025 that you could see that's going to be a problem for players in 2026 or teams as holdouts continue?
I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head with the fact of the matter of NIL, name, image, and likeness, and college players coming from college and saying, bro, I'm getting millions of dollars right now, and this is amazing. One, I think guys and gals may look at saying, hey, I'm going to stay a little bit longer in college and exhaust everything through that process, first and foremost. But especially if I'm not being a top pick and my money then becomes even that much more, I'm going to stay in college. And really, you're going to have those holdouts to say, all right, guess what? I was making about the same amount of money or close to it in college. Like, you need to match that or exceed that, because league minimum does not match that if you were a top player in college. League minimum, I think, is at like $750K right now for the NFL. Like, if I was making $1.5 million, like after taxes, let's just say simple math, 50%, like I'm matching that. And you're taxing me off of 750. So that's cut that in half. Like, I'm losing money. So that's the interesting piece of where you may start to see some holdouts and you see that discrepancy. And there was one player, pro player personnel guy that I was talking to the other day, and he was like, man, the money is different when it's coming from college. You're getting free cars. You're getting all these different particular pieces. Now I got to pay for them in the pros. So it's like guys come here and they're like, man, life is way different. I'm broke when I get to the NFL. It's not necessarily a positive thing versus where I was at in college.
Last thing, I'll leave you with this, man, because again, Deshaun Watson got 230. That was fully guaranteed. What is the next mega guarantee deal? Who's the star that you can see is going to grab that huge contract that's really going to set the mark? Because the Deshaun Watson thing, I mean, I think that was a dud. Obviously, we see. I mean, no disrespect to the brother, he didn't perform the way that contract says that he should have. What's the next one? What's the next guy that's going to lure that type of money fully guaranteed?
I think there's a handful of guys that are out there going to be able to have a fully guaranteed deal. But it would behoove me not to mention this gentleman as the leader of that. He got 10 years, $450 million. Patrick Mahomes, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
He's due. He's undervalued compared to where the other quarterbacks are at right now. I mean, Jalen Hurts is getting $52 million. Josh Allen just got paid, and I think he's close to $60 million a year. And to not say he's not at the number 1 and 2 position of being up there, granted, Jalen Hurts well-deserved, my Jumpman brother. Josh Allen, the same thing, even the Ravens quarterback. From that perspective, so I think Patrick Mahomes, I mean, depending on what he wants to do and how many years he wants to sign, if I were him, I'd be looking at a 4-year deal, maybe $750 million, fully guaranteed.
Wow. $750? That's a Patrick Mahomes holdout that's coming in. That's what I'm hearing. Patrick
I
Mahomes
mean,
holdout.
maybe, you never know. I mean, he's so early in his career, got you 3 championships already, and he's only getting smarter and more efficient on that football field. He was in the Super Bowl last year. He's been in multiple Super Bowls, having won 3 and played in 4 or 5.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a very hard decision to make, man, if you're the Chiefs, because if you pay him that type of money, how do you fill out your roster? What positions do you have to go without because you're paying Mahomes so much money,
But I think that's where cash over cap comes in. And I still believe it's relevant in the way things are. If you give him the cash, it doesn't affect the cap.
That's right. Give me the cash up front. Yeah. Yeah. I like that.
And it's not like he's not worth it and not deserving of it. So
that's right.
And he's a proven commodity. So why not give him the cash?
All these years, man, when they used to call me Little Emmett running around in the streets of Philadelphia, I knew I should have stuck with football. I really should have. I could have been holding out by that time, man, getting paid money. I don't know. I could have been maybe getting $750 at this particular.
I love the game of football, and it's given me amazing opportunities from a monetary perspective and in a business perspective.
Yeah.
But that basketball money is different, boss. That basketball money is different.
Baseball money is different.
Basketball and baseball money is different. Oh my God. You see the 6th man, 7th man, he making about 35, 45 million a year or from their contracts and whatnot. So from my viewpoint, Kingston and Kari, if you're listening, we gonna be in the gym, boss. And your mama's gonna be teaching you because she was real good. We gonna be dunking on people. I'll teach you the aggressiveness to dunk on folks because I did it a couple times. But we gonna be in the gym.
Yeah, and if it don't work out at the gym, we gonna hit the batting cages, right?
That too. And it's crazy. I was over at the Board of Greatness in Greece with the Jumpman family, and Mike Bibby was there, and he's at Sac State, and he was like, "Man, your boys are only 4, and they're almost 4.5 feet tall, 5 feet tall. I'm giving them contracts right now. They got a full ride to Sac State. Let's go." So, I mean, they might got Mike Bibby. They got my fam and Rich Hamilton to get him right. I mean, so they got all the folks that are there to get him right. So we'll see.
Yeah, and they got a dad who understands the game of holdouts. So if the contracts don't match up,
I will get my lawyer license and it will be their agent, boss.
Be mine too, because
I'm happy to do it. I'm happy to do it.
So we can start right now on the podcast. You can be my agent when we renegotiate. Re up about that.
Let's go. Forbes, I'm coming for you.
You go. And Dom, I turn this whole thing again on you, man. I really appreciate the insight with the contracts because, again, it is a dynamic. Every year you hear about what's going on, how these guys are holding out. Nothing really new or urgent, but behind the scenes, why they do it, the techniques or the strategy of why they do it. It's really something interesting. Again, I only think it's going to get worse in a way because the NIL money is going to impact decision-making, as you kind of alluded to.
Yeah, no question. And I think every situation is unique, and it's going to be interesting to see how it continues to evolve over the years and decades. But there are some tidbits in pieces that you can take from lessons from previous years, current years to help you in the future.
If you don't have an agent, right, and I'll leave you with this one.
Yeah.
And you're an NFL player, maybe you're going, I don't need representation. What are top three things, right, from Ndamukong Suh that you would tell young guys about how to, leverage themselves so they can be able to get a fair deal?
I said the top three things, and I love this question because it's a great one. If I'm a guy that's representing myself or I'm guiding somebody, one, go read and understand these contracts in and out. You behoove yourself not to do that first and foremost. Secondly, understand the market and what you're going into. Compare yourself to all these other people. Identify, like I looked at JJ Watt-Steele. I looked at so many different guys. Mario Williams at the time was one of the highest paid defensive linemen. So I went and looked at all these comparables from that perspective and found where I should be fitting in. Should I be above or below this guy? Yes, they're defensive ends. I'm a D tackle, but I'm a game changer and all these different particular pieces. And look at the accolades that you've been able to accomplish, Pro Bowls, All Pros, all those things go into it. Availability, not missing games for 5 years straight, not one game missed. Like those things are important. And availability is like, what have you done for me done for me lately? Well, guess what? I've been on the football field and I've been dominated for all these years. I want to be compensated for that. And then obviously look at your budget for what it comes to saying, hey, what does it take for me to make sure I'm on the football field each and every single time and I'm available? And then lastly, go to the PA. They have nothing but a book of data for you to learn for and lawyers that will guide you through this process.
Yeah. And you're talking about the NFLPA?
The NFLPA.
I smile because they're going through so much turmoil right now. As a player, you're looking at that organization and saying, why am I going there, right? I mean, would you still advise that?
Yes, but that is the executive directors, and yes, they're very important, but it's a big organization, and there's a ton of people that will teach you a ton of opportunities. And I think, in my personal opinion, if I would pick the next executive director, Don Davis has done me justice throughout my entire career. He was obviously a former player. He's been in the PA. I remember when he first came to Detroit, he just took a liking to me at the end of the day. And we've just always remained close. So I'm somewhat biased, but the man of his word, always follows through, always available, weekends, nights, whatever it is. And that's the type of person that you want to lead an organization like that. And he's been through the trials and tribulations. And so he helped me with my contracts, and he helped me put me with the right folks within that organization to give me opinions and guidance for me to make educated decisions. It's time for the Confidently Curious question, where we ask questions that are one step ahead. Sponsored by T. Rowe Price, where they believe that asking better questions can lead to better outcomes. So, my Confidently Curious question of the day is, what do you call the value of assets you own minus debts or liabilities that you owe? A, equity, B, net worth, C, mortgage. The answer is B, net worth. So your assets can be your house, a vehicle, or just simply the money that you have in the bank, plus maybe retirement savings that you've put away as well. So for me, an example of that would be, let's say I own my own personal home for $1 million, and then I have an apartment building that's worth $1 million. My home, I own free and clear at $1 million. So that's $1 million of net worth. But the apartment building, I've got a 50% mortgage on. So that's a $500,000 mortgage. Well, now my net worth is minus that 50% of that mortgage, that $500,000, plus the value of my home. My net worth is $1.5 million. That's our Confidently Curious question for the week. Thanks to our sponsor, T. Rowe Price, for modeling the power of better questions in their approach to making better investment decisions. T. Rowe Price proudly sponsors No Free Lunch. The views expressed in this podcast are those of the podcast participants and do not necessarily reflect those of T. Rowe Price. Their sponsorship supports the platform and does not imply endorsement of specific content or perspectives. Man, Jabari, what an amazing conversation, boss. I think we got a lot of next steps for the future and a couple decades away from now, man. I appreciate the conversation, but again, that's our show. Like, comment, subscribe to No Free Lunch.